Hello and welcome to www.luxurytolast.com. Today we're talking collecting watches, and in particular we're talking about my own personal collection. I've loved watches ever since I was a teenager, when I saved up to buy a quartz Omega Seamaster, and ever since then I've been on a quest to learn more about watches and any luxury type goods. I replaced that Seamaster with a Rolex Explorer 1 when I was actually 18, and then my quest for watches just went forward. And I'd like to talk about my own personal collection. I've been an active watch collector, but I've also, because I'm not a rich person. I would say I'm a middle class person. And in my collection itself, there I've often sold pieces to pay for the next piece, and that's quite common with a lot of watch collectors. There's very few people who can just keep everything. The other thing too is, of course, is that with your collection, your tastes change. You start off, you have certain favorites. Later on, when you look at the pieces that you really yearn for, you kind of cringe. You kind of think, "Ooh, gee, that wasn't that such a great piece." And that's what happens. Your tastes change. It's a bit like becoming a wine connoisseur. When people first start off into wines, they often like sweet wines, and then gradually their palates develop, and they suddenly they appreciate a good Chardonnay, a good Cab Sav, and their tastes grow. And that's very much with watches. And I look back at some of the watches that I really lusted after, and they're quite average sort of pieces. I remember lusting after a musty Cartier quartz watch, which is still I had it and I sold it, but I still like that model, and that's the sort of thing that happens. So let's get underway with talking about my current collection. Firstly, I'll sort of say, well, how many watches do you really need in a collection? Well, that's really up to yourself. What I've tried to do is, all along with my collection, the aim of my collection is not to have as many pieces as possible. It's to have a quality collection, and that's, I can't really stress that enough. It's so much more important to have one or two really high-end pieces than to have half a dozen or a dozen just mediocre, average sort of beaters. And that's really the big thing with collecting. It's the quality. It's not to. I collect for myself. I don't collect to impress anyone or show off. I collect because I love watches for myself. No one else pays for my collection, and I collect what makes me happy. So basically, it's a situation of quality over quantity, and I'm very much. I believe myself. Most people who collect pieces, if you ask them what's your core collection, it's probably going to be in the vicinity of 3 to 10 sort of good watches. Okay, so let's start off with my collection there itself. There now. The first piece I'd like to talk about is my Rolex Explorer 1. Now this is a piece that I've owned this piece here for a couple of years, and it's a Rolex Explorer 1 14270. It's a the piece itself is from the early to mid 90s. Um, it's a Holes case, and it's got the older oyster style bracelet without the flip lock feature on it. And again, I'm collecting these pieces for myself. To me, I really love the Holes case. I think that's for a tool watch like a Rolex. I think the holes are fantastic because it makes it so easy to remove the bracelet, to swap it for a strap. The other thing I love about this piece here is that it doesn't have the flip lock clasp there. I really prefer the simplicity of the straight oyster bracelet, and this model has that. Now you might say, well, what makes me want this watch? Well, okay, the Rolex Explorer 1 itself there is a fantastic piece. My first true luxury watch, if you don't count my Omega Seamaster Quartz that I have, I don't think that's probably a luxury watch, was a Rolex Explorer 1 1016, which is the plastic version of my current watch. So to the untrained eye, they look very similar. That watch is a huge collectible. It's got a huge collectible following, and this version here is sort of the modern interpretation of that version. And I think it's just an absolute cracker of a watch. So I do have history. I made actually a lot of money on selling my 1016 many years ago. Yes, I do regret selling it. I wish I still had it, but look, the best thing I can do is replace it, and that's what I've done. I've replaced it with a 14270. These are a great buy. They're really quite a they're quite inexpensive for a Rolex sports watch. This is a beautiful example out of Japan, which it also had a service from Rolex themselves, and it's just beautiful, clean piece, crisp piece. I bought that from a dealer friend of mine, and I think they're excellent value. The Rolex Explorer 1 has been replaced by the new Rolex Explorer 1, which has got the 39mm case. This is still using the 36mm case, and I think bang per buck, you really can't go past this piece. It's a great looking watch. It's just honest and clean and fresh, and it's one of the few dress watches that you can wear with a suit because it is so discreet. The thing about the Explorer 1 too is Ian Fleming, the author of the James Bond series, he actually had a Rolex Explorer 1 himself. He had a 1016. So it's always interesting that, and if you do read the James Bond novels there, you will see that Ian Fleming himself said James Bond wore a Rolex Explorer 1. I don't know why they changed it for the movie. That's another story, but that's what he's supposed to wear there, and you can see why. It's just got that classical elegance to it. I really love this piece. It's a great modern watch to have. Some people have said, oh, it's a wee bit small. I disagree. I think it's just a perfect size. I'm not a big fan of the dinner plate specials, and this watch really does reflect my taste. It's nice that I had a 1016. That was a watch that I had for many years, and this is sort of like to replace that one that I sold, and I really love it. I think it's fresh, it's crisp. I do prefer the sapphire. In all honesty, if it wasn't for the fact that the 1016 with the plastic glass is so valuable, I would say actually I do prefer the sapphire incarnation of it, and that's what the 14270 is. It's a modern interpretation of the 1016, and I'm really thrilled to have that piece in my collection. I absolutely love it. It's just classic and understated. The next piece in my collection I'd like to talk about is a Rolex Explorer 2, which is a 16570, and this here is with the gorgeous white dial. Now, after I sold my 1016, I sold that in actually 1997, or actually 1998 I sold that. And what I did was, to console myself, because I was rather disappointed when I sold it, I did buy a Rolex Explorer 2, and I had a lot of fun. That's one watch which I really loved. Now, this Explorer 2 here, actually, I've only just recently purchased. It's 2011, and I bought this about 2 months ago, and it's got the beautiful polar white dial. The funny thing is, collectors these days tend to think the black dial ones are slightly better. I personally, I've owned both. I've owned the white and the black dial. I really love the white dial, and I think if you've got the Explorer 1, it's nice to have the variation in the Explorer 2 of the white dial. I think the white dial is just stunning. Not to discredit the black dial. It's all it's all much of a muchness. They're both beautiful, but personally, I just love the look of the white dial. Omega themselves have got the Speedmaster Professional, and they've also got that with a white dial, and I must say that just looks stunning with the white dial. I'm a bit of a fan of white dials. So the Rolex Explorer 2 here, this one here is also an early 90s piece. It's also got the holes case, which I think is great. I think holes on the case are great for a steel sports watch. It's also got the non-flip lock bracelet, which I like. I'm not a big fan of the flip lock. I think it's just getting too fiddly. On a dive watch, it's great to have the clasp like that, but on a non-diving watch, I really can't see the benefits of it. It's just too much Too much stuff for the bracelet, I think, and it's just a pain in the ass to take on and off. But this Explorer 2 here, really good piece. I bought this recently, and I love it on a strap, as you can see in my photos, and I also love it on the steel oyster bracelet. It's just a great piece. It's probably getting a bit thin, sorry, a bit thick to wear with a suit, but because it's got the white dial, you possibly could get away with it. Um, I think it's a great watch there. I've always loved the Explorer 2. I remember, as I mentioned, I had an Explorer 1 which I sold, and I got a Explorer 2, and I had that for a couple of years, and then I sold it to buy another watch. But I've always yearned for another Explorer 2, and I've had a couple, and about 2 years ago I had a black dial one which I really loved. But at the end of the day, said to myself, well, if I had my choice, I'd actually prefer the white dial one. That's just a personal thing, and that's why I sold it. And I've been looking for a white dial one since, and I've just picked up this piece a couple months ago, and it's just great. It's a beautiful, honest watch. I love the Explorer 2s. I think they're just fantastic. I love the fact that they've got the steel bezel, which does not rotate. The GMT and the Submariner have rotating bezels, but I just love the simplicity of it. I think it's just a gorgeous sports watch. And the beautiful thing about an Explorer 2 is not everyone has one. With a Submariner, every person who has a Rolex, every second person has a Submariner, if they're Rolex fans, which is understandable. The Rolex Submariner is a fantastic piece. But I must say, the Explorer 2 is just a bit more unusual, and I think it's a great buy on the second-hand market these days. They are an absolute bargain, and the Explorer 2 has just been revised, and I think you will see the superseded model, which is what this model I've got on the screen here. You can see. I think they will actually go up in value because they're so cute, and they're just a beautiful sports watch, and I really love having that in my collection there. The next piece I'd like to talk about is my Omega Speedmaster Man on the Moon watch. And as a collector itself there, I loved the brands like Cartier, Rolex, Patek Philippe. I've always been a brand name person. And one of the things I was very late to come into was chronographs. That's right. This Omega Speedmaster Man on the Moon, that's the mechanical winding watch. It's the watch that was famous because the NASA astronauts, when they went onto the moon mission in Apollo 11, they had Omega Speedmaster watches, and I was very late to come to the chronograph type of watches, and I must say I absolutely love it. The timing mechanism, it's just fantastic. The Rolex Daytona is really big money. I've never actually owned a Daytona because the money, they're just so. I don't think they're great value. I like to buy watches which are good value. But I must say, I had a Speedmaster a couple years ago, and ever since that so this is my second Speedmaster. I think they've been a fantastic piece there. They're absolutely just absolutely wonderful piece to have in a collection. They're also, I think, the most iconic sports watch there is. It doesn't get any better than an Omega Speedmaster Man on the Moon watch. And the fact is, this is actually an 861 movement piece, which is the second type of movement that Omega had, and it's just absolutely beautiful. It's got the acrylic plastic glass there. It's just a true interpretation of the Man on the Moon watch there. And this is a piece that I shopped around for a bit, and I wanted one with an original 1171 bracelet. Because a lot of people have the 1171-1 bracelet. I wanted the 1171 without the dash, which means it is the correct bracelet that came on the watch when it left the factory. This here is an early 80s piece, and it's just a beautiful vintage piece. The piece isn't absolutely perfect, but it's honest. When I say honest, the movement is correct to that watch. The dial is original. The bracelet's original. It was a original watch, and that's what I love about these vintage pieces. Is I don't want molested pieces that have been made to look nicer than they really are. I like honest pieces, and this here is just an absolute fantastic piece to have. I think the Omega Speedmaster Man on the Moon watch is the most iconic Omega that you can have. It's probably, if someone said to me, what's the best bang per buck sports watch you can buy, I would say Omega Speedmaster Man on the Moon. These are excellent buying second hand. Omega's a great brand, and they're just absolute. It's just an absolute fantastic sports watch to have. They're not waterproof, but they are. I think they're just fantastic. If you're going to have one watch and you've got a limited budget, I would go Omega Speedmaster Man on the Moon watch. Okay, the next watch in my collection is one of my all-time favourites, and there's a bit of a story to this watch. I've had some really fantastic Holy Grail type watches. I've had a couple of Rolex Gold Presidents. That's the Rolex Day Date in 18 karat yellow gold. I've had some 18 karat Cartiers. I've had Cartier tanks. I've had a Cartier, the little Torno, which is one of the most beautiful. I've actually had two of those, believe it or not. And I've had many other magnificent pieces in my hands, but the brand that really stands out is Patek Philippe. And what happened was I had a small inheritance come my way, and I said to myself, what watch do I really, really want? What's my dream watch? Because I had some little bit of money came my way, and I thought, this is a chance. I'm going to use some of that money to reduce. I paid off my car and a few bit of personal debt, but I thought, really want to treat myself. I want to buy something that I'm going to love, and what watch do I really want? And it's a good thing. Me being a bit of a watch buyer and seller meant that I'd already done the gold Rolex President. I've been there, done that. I didn't need to have that type of watch again. I said to myself, I can buy whatever I want, within reason. I mean, I couldn't obviously buy a tourbillon or something like that, but I could buy any brand I want, and I could have it in a precious metal. I just had to decide what did I really want, and my choices. I really narrowed it down. I narrowed it down to a Rolex Day Date. I was thinking maybe go for the white gold Day Date instead of yellow gold. I was also thinking Rolex Steel Daytona. It's a modern steel Daytona. I thought, geez, that's a beautiful piece to have there. I was also thinking maybe buying a brand new Rolex two-tone Submariner with the blue dial. I thought that could be a good way to go. And the final piece I was considering was a Patek Philippe Calatrava, or any Patek Philippe gold type watch, or actually any Patek Philippe at all. So I've got a handful of dealers that I buy things from, and I was just keeping an eye out because I knew the money was coming. It was basically inheritance. And I started looking around, and I hummed and hawed. Do I get a Daytona? I could actually the Rolex agent rang me and said he had one available. It was a brand new one with a black dial. But I looked at it, and I do buy value. I really do want to buy pieces that allow me to trade out of it if necessary. I'm not an investor in watches, but I like to buy value. I just won't. I find it very hard to pay full price for a piece. I always like to look at the the resale side and buy some. I'd rather buy a second-hand Patek than a brand new Datejust, for example. It's just so much better value. So I had a look around, and this Patek came up. It's a Patek Calatrava 5107 in white gold. And I looked at it, and I just fell in love with it. That was it. It just said, yes, take me. And it's also called the Patek Philippe Calatrava Grand Tourly because it's big dimensions for a Patek dress watch. The Calatrava series itself there came out originally as the Patek Calatrava 96, and this here is just a big interpretation of the Calatrava. It's also in white gold, and white gold is just such a discreet, classy metal. It doesn't show off. It's just so discreet. The other thing I loved about this watch is that it's got the opaline dial, the whitish coloured dial, and it's just got the most beautiful hands, those 1960s hands. It had the I love the crown guards on this model. Some people don't like the crown guards on on a Calatrava, but I think it just adds a modern flamboyance to it, while still retaining a very 1960s dial. And the most beautiful part about the Patek 5107 is the display back for the automatic movement, and that's what really clinched the deal for me. I was able to buy a Patek Philippe Calatrava automatic with date. I mean, that's quite a tasty piece to have there. And I've owned a few Pateks in the past, and I thought, well, all the Pateks I've had, they've always I've had a 3919 yellow gold Calatrava, which I absolutely loved, which I sold because money. I sort of it was a lot of money at the time, and I had a few family expenses came up, so I got rid of that. And then I had a Patek 3944, which is a Patek Calatrava, which is quartz, and it was a compromise because with a Patek you're buying it for the movement, and to buy a Patek with an automatic movement and a date, that's really just such a holy grail piece, and it's just beautiful. White gold, it's just discreet. It's just absolutely gorgeous, and that's the piece I chose, and it was an absolutely fantastic piece to have. I love it every day. I would I ever sell it? Well, look, it's one of these things. I'm just a middle class person. I'm not super rich. Okay, so I have to, you know, be aware of would I sell it or would I never sell it? Well, look, of course I'd sell it if someone was paying more than I thought it was worth. And this piece here, I've got the paperwork for it. I sent off for an extract from the archive. I've got the correct box for it. I've got absolutely everything for it. And would I sell it? Well, the offer would have to be damn good. I'll say that much. But I don't intend to sell it. I put it that way. I'd like to keep that piece forever. And it's just a beautiful piece to hand down to my son. And I hope it becomes an heirloom. I really love the piece itself there, and it's one of these things. When you are a watch collector, you tend to move in circles who are also watch collectors. And I mean, if you show them a Rolex Datejust that you've just bought, it really, I'm not trying to be a snob, but it doesn't impress anyone there. It's just it's just another Rolex Datejust. When you show them a Patek Calatrava like this, the 5107, it just, everyone who looks at it is in awe. They go, "Oh, that is just absolutely beautiful." It's absolutely no apologies. It's just, it doesn't matter how rich a person is, they would buy a 5107 in white gold. It's just an absolute stunner of a piece. It makes no apologies. Do I wish I got a Patek with complications? Of course, I love complications. My ultimate dream watch would have to be the Patek White Gold World Time. But with that said, I absolutely love this Calatrava. I'd certainly, I would not trade it in at all, and I just adore it there. I think. I don't know whether I'll get another Patek in my collection there. As I say, I'm a middle class person. I don't have thousands of dollars, when you've got children and a life to lead. It's a lot of money for Patek Philippe, but look, I think it's worth it. It's been a fantastic. I just love the watch. It's I could be quite happy having that watch for the rest of my life. And Patek 5107, absolute stunner of a piece, and it's brought me a lot of happiness. I've got a friend of mine who's a vintage watch dealer, and he asked me if he could have it in his window to sell at Christmas time, and I reluctantly said, yeah, let's put high money on it, let's see how it goes. And it didn't sell. The economy is a bit tough now, because of the global financial crisis and things like that, and it didn't sell. And I said to him, look, if it hasn't sold by Christmas, I'll take it back. Either way, I'll be happy. Either I've got really top money for it, or I get my Patek back. And in some ways, I'm actually pleased it didn't sell. I love it too much. The next piece in my collection is a Vacheron Constantin vintage dress watch. Now, when I after I got my beautiful Patek Philippe 5107, I was still yearning for another type of watch. I thought I was actually after a another Patek, like a 3919. What I wanted was a very traditional dress watch. I wanted something, didn't have to be 1960s, but I wanted something thin. I want something with all the characteristics of a traditional dress watch, which to me it should be a watch that is in a precious metal, which most common for 60s. True, in my opinion, I think the yellow gold would probably be the metal, because I've already got the white gold Patek, so I wanted something a little bit different. I wanted it to be thin. I wanted it. It didn't have to be the same dimensions as my Patek there. I've already got the modern interpretation of the ultimate dress watch, so I wanted the classic interpretation of a dress watch. And I was thinking maybe I'll get a 3919 Patek Philippe, which I'd already owned in the past and I absolutely adored. I loved the sub-seconds at the sixth position. That was fantastic. And I loved the just the simplicity of the Patek. I wanted a mechanical winding movement. The automatic movement's fantastic, but I wanted a true interpretation of a vintage dress watch. And I was thinking Patek. I love Patek, and then all of a sudden, because what I do is I have a look around at the dealers I deal with, and this beautiful Vacheron and Constantin watch came up, and it's just absolutely beautiful. It was in unrestored condition, and I rang the dealer about it, and it needed a service, it needed a polish, and when I received it, it had the most awful strap on it, and it hadn't been serviced, it hadn't been polished, but those were good things because I could get it done properly, and I chose the most beautiful crocodile type strap, ultra thin strap to go with the ultra thin watch, and I've been very pleased with the results. I gave it a full service, and I got a professional watch polisher. This is a professional person who knows not to over polish. That's the worst thing you can do with watches if you're polishing them, is over polish, and the results I think are absolutely amazing. It'd never been polished before, and the polisher has respected the lines and the edges. It's got the most beautiful coin edging bezel. It's got the classic Vacheron. It's got the Vacheron K1001 mechanical manual wind movement, which is also a Geneva seal movement. My Patek 5107 is also a Geneva seal movement, which is really the ultimate in movements for a watch. And this piece here, Vacheron, I think in the thin dress watch genre, Vacheron is the clear leader. Vacheron is a fantastic brand. Vacheron's a brand which has got a huge amount of history and clientele. 250 years of continual existence. And Napoleon Bonaparte was a customer of Vacheron. When Queen Elizabeth II was coronated, the Swiss government gave Queen Elizabeth a Vacheron and Constantin wristwatch as a present. I mean, that's the brand it is. I mean, it's just there's Patek, and Patek is the Rolls Royce. It's the number one watch in the world. But Vacheron, geez, it would have to be. It's also up there with them. It's probably the most snootiest wristwatch in the world, Vacheron, and absolutely gorgeous. I love it. It's a true interpretation of a dress watch. I don't think it's a watch I bought for myself. My wife said, "Oh, geez, that looks like an old person's watch," but it's not the point. This is 1960s, and the flavor of the time was very different. The aim at the time was to make the watch as thin as possible, and it was to make it in a precious metal, And this piece here, I actually sent off to the Vacheron concierge and asked them about the piece, and they confirmed the movement and the case and the is all correct for the piece, which is it's a nice tick of approval. And they confirmed the date of manufacturer was 1960. So it is the classic 1960s dress watch, and I adore it. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and you've got to be a true collector to appreciate this watch. But I think it's just a classic interpretation of what a true dress watch should be. The Patek, if you know, between the two there, the Patek is many times more valuable than the Vacheron. The Vacheron's lost a little bit of this small dress watch type size has lost a bit of flavour. The fashion is for large watches, but I think myself in my collection, I just love it because it's got all the characteristics of a dress watch, and it's just a beautiful piece to have there. The interesting thing with my collection is it's all a white metal, so it's either steel or white gold. And the Vacheron is the only yellow gold piece that I have in my collection. I don't even have a two-tone piece in my own collection. But that's good because it just you've always got to have a watch that breaks the rules. And the Vacheron, it's nice that it's that piece. The last piece in my collection, because I've got 6 men's watches in my collection, is a watch which I had a watch box that stores 6 pieces, and I've been thinking what's another piece that I really love to have, and a brand that means a lot to me is Cartier. I've owned quite a few Cartiers, and I thought, what would I like to fill my box? And I thought about it. I thought, well, do I get a Santos? I've always loved the Santos, and I thought, oh, I'm just sort of a little bit off that at the moment. I had a Santos Moon Phase in two tone, and I thought, what can I get? I want something different. And I thought, well, all my pieces are mechanical, and what I should do is I should have one quartz piece in my collection. So I thought, why not make it a Cartier Panther in steel? And it's the large size model, and it's a beautiful piece. This is a piece from Germany. I've just recently bought it, and I think it's absolutely stunning. It's got the most beautiful bracelet on it, like a panther. It's got like the fur on a cat, and it's a gorgeous piece. Um, Really good buying on the used market. The quartz pieces have taken an absolute battering, so it's certainly I can't lose money on it, and I love it. I think every collection does need one quartz piece just to act as the official timekeeper for the pieces, because with mechanical, manual wind, and automatic pieces, you've continually got to wind them or wear them. So it's good to have a piece to use as your official timekeeper, and that's what the Panther has become. And it fits in beautifully with the collection. It's discreet. I'd say the Panther. Um, it certainly is a dress watch, but I'd say it's like a casual attire watch. It's something you could just wear to a smart barbecue. If you're wearing long pants and a short sleeve shirt, you could sneak off to an upmarket barbecue or something along those lines. There, it's not imposing. It's just absolute class, and it's really a great addition to my box there. So there we have it. That's my current collection, and I'm very proud to have those pieces. A a short while ago, I sort of I tried to keep. I've done many things with my collection. I've always tried to have about between 3 and 5 good watches. That was always the aim. And when I got the Patek Philippe, I sold a few of my other pieces off. I sold a Breitling Navitimer off. I sold a two-tone diamond dial Datejust off, and I did that, and then something. I was thinking about things, and I was thinking, what really makes me happy? I mean, I've bought a brand new BMW from the dealer. I've done that. I had an Alfa Romeo a couple of years ago, which was a nice car, but hideously expensive to maintain. I was thinking, what really makes me happy in life there, and it's not necessarily having the most money or having umpteen investment properties. I thought, you know something. What makes me happy is watches. I love my watches, and I'd traditionally been keeping a collection of three men's and three ladies, well, three ladies for my wife, and I thought, stuff this. Why can't I have six or seven beautiful watches for myself? And that's what I've decided to do. I mean, watches make me happy. They're not really that expensive, and I don't have to have a completed collection in a month or a day or a week. I can slowly add pieces to it, and that's what I've decided to do. I said to myself, well, I think ideally I'd like to have seven or eight really nice pieces, and that's what I'm doing now. I've just watches make me happy. They I love trying on different watches. I love on a weekend. I love to have a couple. I keep quite a few in the bank safe, so I don't have them all available at one time. But the thing is, I like to change watches, and they make me happy, and that's what any of us, if we can find happiness, whether it's through material possessions or through any other means, well, so what? It's not hurting anyone, and they just I just love them, and that's what I've decided to do. I've decided to add to my collection. I think I I probably wouldn't want to go over 10 watches. But there you have it. They make me happy. I love them, and I'll add to them if when and if funds allow for it. So that's my watch collection. I hope you've enjoyed this clip. It's a rather long clip there, but I wanted to show my collection. I hope you've enjoyed it, and please send me an email. Let me know what you think of it, and thanks very much. And don't forget to come to my website, www.luxurytolast.com. Thanks very much.